They laughed at him when he couldn't read a single line. His biological father neglected him. But one teacher in Ibadan refused to let the lamp of hope go out. This is the true inspirational African story of Mrs. Adebayo, whose sacrifice, courage, and the power of a teacher's love turned shame into triumph. If you're just tuning into this channel, please subscribe to this channel and give this story a thumbs up. The sun dipped low over Ibadan, spilling gold across rusted rooftops. The market was closing. Goats bleated in the distance, and children chased a football through dusty streets. Yet, in a community school at the edge of town, children stormed out of the classroom, their laughter echoing across the dusty field, while one classroom still glowed. Inside, Mrs. Adebayo sat with a boy named Chinedu. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes fixed on the floor and in his small hands. His book trembled like a secret he wished no one had discovered. Mrs. Adebayo's face was lit not by electricity, but by the flicker of a kerosene lamp. This is where our story begins, with a teacher who refused to give up and a boy who almost lost his future. Chinedu was 12, small for his age, and his uniform was torn at the edges. His voice trembled whenever he was asked to read aloud. "Chinedu, read," the teacher had said earlier that day. And he had tried, he always tried. But the words jumped, slipped, and mocked him. The other children had roared with laughter, one boy shouting, "Chinedu reads like a generator. Start, stop, then shut down." Even Chinedu laughed nervously, trying to hide his shame. Reading English is like chasing a chicken. You think you've caught it, then it slips. They all laughed and clapped at his joke. But inside, Chinedu was shrinking. Every stumble pushed him closer to walking away from school forever. Mrs. Adebayo watched him from his desk. "Stay behind," she said gently, though her eyes carried a firmness that left no room for excuses. That evening, long after the other teachers had gone home, Chinedu froze, fearing punishment. She lit a kerosene lamp and pulled her chair close to his. "Let's chase the chicken together," she said with a smile. Night after night, they sat in that dimly lit room. While others enjoyed the comfort of home, Mrs. Adebayo sacrificed her evenings. Sometimes hunger gnawed at her stomach. Sometimes the smoke from the lamp made her cough. But she pressed on. Chinedu struggled, stumbled, and misread words, turning cattle into castle. They laughed until tears rolled down their cheeks. But after the laughter, he tried again and declared, "I don't want a cow. I want a palace." Yet, behind her laughter was determination carved from years of sacrifice. However, not everyone was amused. Words spread through the village. "Why is that woman wasting her time? That boy will never pass." But Mrs. Adebayo ignored them. She saw something no one else did. One night, Chinedu's father, Mr. Okafor, a man hardened by years of farming, discovered him sneaking home late from lessons. He grew angry. His voice thundered. He said to his son, "Chinedu, books do not fill stomachs. The farm needs hands, not pencils." Chinedu lowered his head. "Papa, I want to learn." Chinedu's heart shrank at his father's words. That night, he told Mrs. Adebayo that he could not come anymore. But the teacher was not one to surrender. The next day, she walked the long path to the farm. Dust clung to her shoes. Her throat was dry, and sweat glistened on her brow. Yet, she stood before Mr. Okafor and spoke with a firm voice. "Sir, your farm will provide food today, but your son's education can feed generations. Do not bury his future in the soil." The farmer stared at her. His pride wrestled with her plea. Finally, he said, "If he fails, it will be on your head." And so the lessons continued. Each night, the boy grew stronger. Every word was a battle. Each sentence, a mountain. Words that once slipped away began to stay. Sentences that mocked him slowly bowed in obedience. Weeks passed. The kerosene lamp coughed smoke into their lungs, but they pressed on. Some nights, Mrs. Adebayo went hungry, giving up her food to save money for lamp oil. Some nights, Chinedu cried in frustration, slamming his book shut. But she would smile softly. "Courage is not about never falling, my boy. It's about rising each time you fall." The day of the school's prize-giving drew near, and with it, a challenge that would test all their labor. Every student would read before the entire community. Chinedu's heart froze. Fear wrapped itself around his heart. "Mama teacher, I can't." They will laugh at me again. Her hands rested on his shoulders. Firm but tender. Chinedu, courage is standing tall even when your knees shake. Do not run from this moment. Own it. The night before disaster struck, their lamp ran out of kerosene. For a moment, darkness threatened their dream. Then, without hesitation, Mrs. Adebayo lit her last cooking firewood. The flames cracked, casting shadows, but they read on. The day arrived. The school hall was packed. Parents dressed in their best clothes. The air buzzing with drums and chatter. When Chinedu's name was called, parents fanned themselves. Gossip buzzing through the crowd. That boy? The one who cannot read. He stepped onto the stage, trembling. His father sat at the back, arms folded, his face stony with a mask of doubt. Chinedu opened the book. For a moment, silence pressed down on him like a weight. He stumbled on the first line. The room grew tense. Snickers rose. Chinedu's chest tightened, whispers rising. But then he remembered Mama Teacher's words. Courage is standing even while your knees shake. He breathed deeply and read again, slowly, steady as a drum. The words began to flow, one line, then another. The hall fell silent, not in mockery, but in awe. By the time he finished, the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Cheers filled the air. His father's folded arms broke into trembling hands that wiped tears from his eyes. For the first time, Chinedu saw pride in his father's eyes. Years passed. The shy boy became a confident man, dressed in fine suits, standing in courtrooms not as a farmer, but as a man of books, a man of justice, a lawyer. On the day, he launched a scholarship fund for poor children. The hall was grand, filled with dignitaries. But when Chinedu spoke, his voice cracked with emotion. Many years ago, I almost dropped out. But one woman refused to let me go. Today, in her honor, I launched the Adebayo Scholarship so no child has to choose between books and poverty. He called one special person to the front, Mrs. Adebayo. Her hair now touched with gray, sat quietly, unaware, tears streaming down her face. Kneeling before her, Chinedu said, Mama Teacher, you built me. You refused to let me go. Today, I build for others because of you. Tears streamed down her face as the crowd rose in applause. Then with a playful grin and a smile that echoed across the years, Chinedu added, and yes, I finally caught the chicken. The hall erupted in laughter and tears all at once. Sometimes heroes do not wear capes. Sometimes they carry chalk, walk dusty roads, and light lamps late into the dark night. Sometimes courage is not in grand battles, but in the quiet refusal to give up on a single child. This was not the story of a famous warrior or politician. It was the story of a teacher who refused to give up and a boy who learned that courage can change destiny. And perhaps, it is also a reminder for all of us not to underestimate the quiet heroes in our lives. If you believe in honoring unsung heroes, like this story, share in the comments. Who is the one person who never gave up on you? Let's build a wall of gratitude together. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more true stories of courage and sacrifice.